Americans have long traveled a world with few restrictions, but in 2025, the landscape is changing fast. Countries that once welcomed U.S. citizens with open arms are quietly tightening the screws, adding new rules, fees, and paperwork. Some are raising barriers to entry, others are making it harder to stay long-term, and many Americans aren't even aware it's happening. Why this shift? Geopolitical tensions, rising visa demand, economic policy changes, and domestic pressures are all colliding. Whether you're a tourist, digital nomad, or expat, these new hurdles could derail your plans. Today, we're counting down 10 countries that are quietly pushing Americans out in 2025, and you'll want to know if your dream destination is on the list. Get ready because the world map is being redrawn, and not in America's favor. Let's dive in. Number 10, China. China has long fascinated American travelers, but in 2025, visiting has become a bureaucratic headache. According to Reuters, while China isn't under U.S. visa bans, its visa system has become increasingly complex for Americans, compounded by geopolitical tensions. The report notes, challenges such as immigration bureaucracy, job scarcity, U.S. tax laws, and dwindling visa options complicate relocation efforts. American travelers now face longer visa processing times, stricter document requirements, and fewer long-term permits. In 2024 alone, the average processing time for tourist visas jumped from 10 to 20 business days, frustrating business and leisure travelers alike. Rising tensions over trade, technology, and Taiwan have only added friction to U.S.-China mobility. The Chinese government has also tightened its oversight of foreign workers and students. New policies require more proof of income, local sponsorship, and even health checks. For many Americans hoping to work or study in China, these added layers have made access far more difficult. With Beijing signaling tougher scrutiny on foreigners, Americans face a travel climate shaped by politics as much as paperwork. What was once a relatively smooth journey is now an obstacle course, pushing many would-be travelers to look elsewhere. China may still be open, but it's no longer easy. Number 9, Russia. Russia has never been the easiest destination for Americans, but in 2025, tensions have reached a breaking point. According to Reuters, the U.S. may impose partial visa suspensions on Russia, affecting tourist, student, and immigrant visas. The article states, the second group, 5 countries, Eritrea, Haiti, Laos, Myanmar, and South Sudan, would face partial suspensions that would impact tourist and student visas as well as other immigrant visas, with some exceptions. While these measures are U.S. imposed, Russia has responded with its own restrictions, limiting visa approvals and tightening oversight of American visitors. In 2024, Russian authorities denied over 15% of U.S. tourist visa applications, citing national security concerns. This rising rejection rate is frustrating travelers and businesses alike. Beyond paperwork, the political atmosphere has soured. Americans on the ground report increased police checks, stricter registration rules, and mounting anti-Western sentiment. Business and student travelers face additional scrutiny, with universities and companies hesitant to sponsor U.S. applicants, creating a chilling effect on academic and commercial ties. Economically, the U.S. ranks low among Russia's tourist markets, contributing to a sense that Moscow can afford to shut the door. In 2023, fewer than 150,000 Americans visited Russia, a number that's expected to drop sharply if restrictions escalate. The growing diplomatic rift is translating into falling travel numbers. The deteriorating U.S.-Russia relationship means Americans now need to weigh personal safety and diplomatic risk alongside logistical hurdles. For many, the cost, time, and uncertainty have become too steep, quietly pushing them toward other destinations. Russia may not have slammed the door, but it certainly made it harder to open. Before we reveal the next country, be sure to subscribe. Your support lets us keep exploring the untold stories and sharing content that truly matters. The more of you who join, the deeper we can dig. Come along for the journey. Number 8, Cuba. Cuba has long been a bucket list destination for adventurous Americans, but change is in the air. Reuters reports that the U.S. government is considering a full suspension of visa issuance to Cuba, alongside other countries like Afghanistan and Iran. The article states, the first group of 10 countries, including Afghanistan, Iran, Syria, Cuba, and North Korea, among others, would be set for a full visa suspension. While Cuba itself hasn't rolled out new restrictions, these looming U.S. measures would effectively freeze most travel. Nearly 500,000 Americans visited Cuba in 2018 under special licenses, but recent numbers have plummeted due to rising tensions and new travel bans. These restrictions have already taken a toll on cultural and educational exchanges. Even before the proposed visa suspension, Americans faced challenges, from limited consular services to complex travel categories. Adding a full freeze would cut off not just tourists, but family reunifications, academic exchanges, and humanitarian missions, severing personal and institutional ties that have developed over decades. Economically, the decline in U.S. visitors has hurt Cuba's tourism industry, with ripple effects across hotels, restaurants, and small businesses. In response, Cuba has increasingly shifted its tourism focus toward European and Canadian travelers, quietly reducing its dependence on U.S. visitors. The deteriorating diplomatic environment adds to the squeeze. With embassies understaffed and relations strained, even simple processes like passport renewals or visa extensions have become drawn-out affairs. For many Americans, Cuba is becoming an increasingly inaccessible neighbor. If the U.S. ban moves forward, Americans may soon find Cuba slipping off their travel lists altogether. What was once a quick flight from Miami is turning into a distant, closed-off island, politically and practically. Number 7. Ireland. Ireland has long been a welcoming destination for Americans, especially those with Irish ancestry. But in 2025, soaring demand is testing the system. According to The Sun, Irish passport applications from the U.S. reached a decade high at the beginning of 2025, with nearly 4,300 applications monthly in January and February, a 60% increase over the previous year. This surge has fueled concerns that Ireland may tighten rules or slow down approvals. The country has seen a sharp rise in Americans seeking dual citizenship, driven by political and economic uncertainties in the U.S. Processing delays are already being reported, with wait times stretching from weeks to months. Beyond passports, Ireland's housing market is under pressure, making long-term stays harder for foreigners. Dublin rents have soared 14% year-over-year, pricing out many would-be expats. Immigration services are also straining under the increased caseload, prompting officials to warn of possible policy changes. Ireland's appeal lies in its strong economy, English-speaking population, and EU access. But the influx of American applicants risks overwhelming local systems. The government has hinted that stricter vetting or eligibility criteria may be on the horizon to manage the flood of applications. For Americans eyeing a fresh start in Ireland, now may be the last window before regulations tighten. As demand surges, Ireland's doors may stay open, but the path through them is narrowing fast. Number 6. Spain. Spain has been a favorite destination for American retirees, remote workers, and investors, but its policies are shifting. According to Reuters, dwindling visa options like Portugal's and Spain's terminated golden visa programs complicate relocation efforts. The end of Spain's golden visa program in early 2025 has closed a major path for Americans seeking European residency. This change reflects public pressure to cool the housing market, which has been driven up by foreign investment. American buyers accounted for nearly 12% of foreign home purchases in Spain in 2024, a figure that spooked local policymakers. Ending the golden visa is intended to curb runaway housing prices and prioritize local residents. Beyond real estate, Spain has tightened tax enforcement on foreign residents, adding another layer of complexity. Americans living in Spain now face stricter reporting requirements, with hefty penalties for non-compliance. These financial pressures are pushing many to rethink long-term relocation plans. The loss of the golden visa has already led to a drop in U.S. investment inquiries, according to Spanish real estate firms. Meanwhile, long-stay visa categories are seeing higher application volumes, lengthening wait times, and increasing rejections. For Americans dreaming of a life under the Iberian sun, Spain's message is clear. The welcome mat is still out, but the rules have changed. Navigating this new landscape will require patience, preparation, and deeper pockets. Number 5. Portugal. Portugal has been a magnet for American retirees and digital nomads, but 2025 brought a major shift. According to Reuters, challenges such as immigration bureaucracy, job scarcity, U.S. tax laws, and dwindling visa options like Portugal's and Spain's terminated golden visa programs complicate relocation efforts. The end of Portugal's golden visa has shut the door on one of the easiest paths for Americans to gain residency. The program had allowed foreigners to secure residency through real estate investment, but skyrocketing housing prices and local backlash forced a policy reversal. Americans accounted for 15% of golden visa recipients in 2024, making them among the most affected groups when the program closed. Housing affordability concerns drove this change, as locals were increasingly priced out of major cities. Beyond golden visas, Portugal has introduced tighter scrutiny on other residency permits, including D7 visas for remote workers and retirees. Processing times have doubled, and applicants now face stricter financial requirements, including proof of stable income well above minimum wage. The country's tax landscape has also shifted. Portugal recently ended its popular tax breaks for foreign residents, removing incentives that had drawn Americans in droves. This double hit, no investment visas and no tax perks, has prompted many U.S. expats to reconsider their move. For Americans eyeing Lisbon or Porto as a European base, the window of opportunity is closing. Portugal remains open, but the golden era of easy entry and light taxation is officially over. Number 4. France. France has long been a cultural and culinary dream for American expats, but rising demand is complicating access. According to The Sun, in France, long-stay visa applications from Americans rose to 2,283 in the first quarter of 2025, up from 1,980 in the same period in 2024. That 20% surge has stretched French immigration services thin and triggered a closer review of U.S. applicants. The increase reflects both political uncertainty in the U.S. and the allure of French living. But as more Americans apply for long-term stays, French authorities have begun imposing tougher documentation checks and more rigorous financial requirements. Applicants must now show higher income thresholds and comprehensive health insurance. Housing availability is also a mounting issue. In Paris, rents have climbed 11% over the past year, raising concerns that foreign demand is squeezing local residents. Some policymakers have floated proposals to cap short-term rental permits and limit foreign property purchases. The French government has also hinted at revising visa quotas to prioritize workers in critical sectors, potentially squeezing out retirees and remote workers. As competition intensifies, many Americans face longer processing times and a higher risk of rejection. For Americans enchanted by the idea of French life, the path is getting steeper. France remains a top-tier destination, but getting in and staying in now demands more planning, patience, and financial security. Number 3. European Union Schengen Area. The European Union's Schengen zone has long been a playground for American tourists and business travelers, but a major change is coming. According to Condé Nast Traveler, starting in the first half of 2025, American tourists will need to apply for the European Travel Information and Authorization System, ETIS, before visiting Europe. This SEVN system adds a new layer of bureaucracy to visits that were once effortless. The ETIS is designed to pre-screen travelers for security and health risks, aligning Europe's entry requirements with systems like the US ESTA. But for Americans accustomed to spontaneous Euro trips, it's a sharp shift. About 12 million Americans visited Europe in 2024, a number that could dip as paperwork and fees increase. Travel experts warn that the ETIS may create bottlenecks at border control, particularly in high season. Airlines and travel agencies have already flagged concerns over passengers arriving without authorization, potentially facing denied boarding. This has sparked a rush in travel advisories and updates to booking platforms. The ETIS doesn't just affect tourists. Business travelers, artists, and even family visitors must comply. The added step has been met with mixed reactions. Some see it as a reasonable security measure, while others call it a bureaucratic headache. Either way, the days of carefree European entry are fading. For Americans planning a European getaway in 2025, preparation is no longer optional. The ETIS marks the beginning of a new, more regulated era of transatlantic travel. Number 2. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, one of Americans' most visited destinations, is raising its own entry barriers. According to Time, starting January 8, 2025, U.S. citizens traveling to the United Kingdom will need to apply for an Electronic Travel Authorization, ETA. This 13-year authorization is valid for 2 years and applies to both air and sea arrivals. The ETA brings the UK in line with other major destinations that have digital pre-screening. About 4.5 million Americans visited the UK in 2024, and officials hope the new system will streamline security while managing high traveler volumes. But for tourists unfamiliar with the system, it may come as an unwelcome surprise. The ETA is part of the UK's broader post-Brexit immigration overhaul, aimed at asserting control over its borders. While it's not as heavy-handed as a visa, it still means Americans need to plan ahead and provide detailed travel information. Travelers without an approved ETA risk being turned away at the airport. Beyond the ETA, some analysts warn of potential future escalations if geopolitical tensions rise or security threats increase. For now, the ETA adds formality to a once frictionless entry, and travelers will need to adjust accordingly. For Americans booking that London theater weekend or Scottish Highlands road trip, the message is clear. Check your documents early. The UK is still open, but the rules of entry have changed. Number 1. Brazil. Topping the list is Brazil, a country that was once one of South America's most accessible destinations for Americans, but is now adding big barriers. According to The Sun, visitors will have to show their last 3 checking or savings account statements, or last 6 payslips, with at least $2,000 in their account. Starting April 10, 2025, Brazil reinstated visa requirements for U.S. citizens, shaking up travel plans. The new rules include a $2,000 bank balance requirement, a letter of intent explaining the purpose of your visit, and an $81 visa fee. This represents a dramatic shift from Brazil's previous visa-free policy and is expected to impact an estimated 300,000 American travelers annually. Travel agencies are already reporting a wave of cancellations and rebookings. Officials say the policy change is part of a diplomatic reciprocity measure, as the U.S. continues to require visas for Brazilian citizens. But the real-world effect is clear: fewer spontaneous trips to Rio, São Paulo, or the Amazon, and more hurdles for business travelers and students alike. Brazil's tourism sector is bracing for a hit. In 2024, American tourists accounted for roughly 20% of foreign arrivals, spending billions on hospitality, transportation, and entertainment. With the new rules in place, that economic boost is at risk. For Americans hoping to samba on Copacabana or explore Iguazu Falls, 2025 demands more than just a plane ticket. Brazil's message is unmistakable. If you want in, you'll need to prove you're prepared. Here are 5 practical tips to consider. If you're an American traveling to countries with rising anti-U.S. sentiment in 2025, stay informed on travel advisories and entry requirements. Before planning travel, regularly check the U.S. Department of State's travel advisories for the latest information on entry restrictions, visa requirements, and safety concerns in your destination country. Some nations have escalated their scrutiny of American visitors, leading to increased detentions and deportations. Ensure all travel documents are valid and compliant. Verify that your passport is valid for at least 6 months beyond your planned stay and that you have the appropriate visa, if required. Some countries have reinstated visa requirements for U.S. citizens, reversing previous waivers. Avoid political discussions and sensitive topics. In countries with heightened anti-American sentiment, it's advisable to steer clear of political debates or discussions about U.S. foreign policy. Engaging in such conversations can attract unwanted attention or lead to misunderstandings. Register with the U.S. Embassy or Consulate. Enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, STEP, to receive important updates from the U.S. Embassy and to facilitate communication in case of emergencies. This step is crucial, especially in countries where diplomatic relations are strained. Have a contingency plan. Prepare for unexpected situations by having access to emergency funds, keeping copies of important documents, and knowing the location of the nearest U.S. Embassy or Consulate. In volatile regions, circumstances can change rapidly, and being prepared is essential. There you have it. The 10 countries quietly pushing Americans out in 2025. From new digital authorizations to scrapped golden visas and rising geopolitical tensions, the global travel landscape is shifting under our feet. Whether you're a tourist, student, or long-term expat, the era of easy American mobility is being rewritten. If you found this eye-opening, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and share it with fellow travelers. We've got more global insights coming your way, because when it comes to navigating the world, staying informed is your passport to smarter travel. See you in the next one.